Week 3 of the Dan K Show is hitting hard. Hockey was played. We got to discuss that. A new website is afoot, a cup series announced, and so many more interesting topics to talk about, including TikTok. What do you mean, TikTok? TikTok is right. Tune in, Dan K Show coming at you now. Welcome into the Dan K Show. This week, a lot to discuss. We finally have hockey games to recap. But before we get started, I go to my three things. Thing number one, the Columbia Infantry. Yes. Are we 0-2 at both levels to start the season? But did you play a two-time champion in the Charlotte Rush? Did you play a tough squad from North Carolina in a Rush team that might just have title hopes at both levels this year? Of course. And did the team look good? It really did. Thing number two, Charlotte Rush looked really good. The Richmond Generals looked really good. Carolina and Hampton looked tough. The Southeast got kicked off this weekend, starting off the USPHL season. And yet again, it looks like it'll be a difficult division to win. Even Potomac, who dropped game one of the Richmond Generals, that is a deep roster this year. They will be tough to deal with. Thing number three, that's where we lead into with our first topic. The USPHL's new website has been launched, and we were a little bit involved, but I'll tell you what, Jay Witta and his team at Tripene Creative were a lot of bit involved. What a job by them. Deb Madden, Josh Boyd, Commissioner Bob Turo in the league office, getting this new website launched. It is beautiful. It's a beauty in hockey terminology. Stellar. I got to introduce in my right-hand man, my beauty, the Dan K Show's official beauty, the beautician, Mike Consigliere, mom forever from another mayor. Lucas Jones, what's going on? Let's talk website.
It is a good looking website. I will second all of the congratulations across the board. It is, I think, combining a lot of the things that some folks have been asking for, right? A little more streamlined, a little bit easier to access some of the information, an incredible visual presentation, right? In a league as big as the USPHL, you need that grid. You need it to almost be like an Excel spreadsheet, because otherwise you can't see all the news that comes through. With so many teams, with so many players, you got to find a way to cover it as effectively as you can. Love the new website. Crisp, clean, great job by Jay Witt and his crew.
Crisp, clean, great job. That was supposed to be our tagline, but now you just used it for Jay Witta. Jay, you're welcome. We've donated it to you. But Lucas, my biggest excitement with all of it is some of the new stat features involved. You can check out the Scout tab, which for scouts yourselves who watch the show, that's going to be a great resource. It's something we thought up here, Lucas, when we were talking through it. Why not have a resource on your website that scouts can directly access with the news, information, and scheduling that you want to get directly to them? That's going to be exciting. With that, we've got a great piece of scout material that we'll be releasing early next week at the NCDC level. We've also got the Dan K Cup series in the Premier and Elite that is going to promote a lot of our teams directly to scouts around the country. There's so much scout-driven, so much family-driven, so much fan-driven. Every single box has been checked by this thing. I'm just excited for this website to grow, for the brand to grow with it. And you can also go directly to dankshow.com. If you're too tired, if your fingers are too tired to type in SHOW.com, tough for me to spell the show name. Part of it's my name. That's the easy part. The show part's difficult. If that's too much for you, just type in USPHL.com, go to media, click Dan K Show, boom, right to our website as well. Some cool stuff.
There you are. It is, it's great to have that kind of synergy between the USPHL brand and the Dan K Show brand, right? Just come right over to our website if you want to check us out. We've got some great articles, some new content pieces that are going up soon, and a few extra bells and whistles that are getting launched, so stay tuned. Make sure you know how to get to dankshow.com.
One of those bells and whistles released this week. The Dan K Show Cup Series has officially launched in 2022-2023. 5 official games, more to come. if people want to come, I got a hair in my mouth. What is this? I'm trying to fight through it, Lucas, but I just couldn't. I couldn't get through. It was like I felt like a shielded. I felt like a netminder getting shielded in front, just getting a screen. I was trying to get around the hair. I was trying to do it in a nice way, but then I had to call it out because it was too obvious that I was reaching towards my cheeks. So, what the Dan K Show Cup Series is, 5 games so far, starting in October with the Florida Cup. That's a tournament, 4-team tournament, single elimination, winner takes all. Then in November, we're playing for a checkered flag. That's going to be pretty cool. The race to the finish there in the Carolina Cup between the Carolina Junior Hurricanes and the Charlotte Rush. Then in January, we've got the Battle for the Axe, 2nd annual. That was the first ever Dan K Cup game. We did it again this year. That's going to be a fun one between the Moose and the Blue Ox. Jay Witta, yet again, another win for Jay Witta. Number 3, we've got the Coney Cup, one of my favorite logos we made. A little ketchup versus a little bit of mustard, and that's how these two get along, like ketchup and mustard. They want to take control. Metro Jets, Toledo, Cherokee. That's a 2-day aggregate score event for us. So we will be handing a giant hot dog trophy to the team that wins the aggregate scoring over those 2 days. Finally, we wrap it up with the Cali Cup with the Long Beach Shredders and Coach Emerson Edom taking on the San Diego Sabres. It's going to be a fun one, Lucas. It's going to be a fun year. If you want to have a cup game yourselves, where can I go?
You can go to dankshow.com/hire. That brings you to our contact page. We have a bunch of details up there if you want to sponsor the Dan K Show in other ways, but if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, that's the multi-use contact form. You want to get in touch with us about anything, that's the way to get it done.
That is it. Dan K Show Cup Series coming to a rink near you this season and beyond. Whether you're a USPHL team or not, any team around the realm. Some of you college squads out there, I see they're playing a game for Bedlam. Our friends at Oklahoma State sent us that. Let us know if you want to be a part of the Dan K Show Cup Series. This thing is going to be huge. Know what else was huge? Hockey started, Lucas. Let's talk about that when we come back.
You are watching the Dan K Show. Everything USPHL, from the NCDC to the Premier and Elite Leagues. The Dan K Show with Dan K and Lucas Jones.
Lucas, it's finally time to break down some of the hockey we watched, and not just break down because hockey's not around anymore. I'm excited to talk about some teams that I've been talking up all off season long. First, we got a chance, Lucas, on our first ever TikTok Live, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in Block 3 for the folks who want to hear about our next TikTok Live broadcast they can tune into. But we saw the Columbia Infantry in their first ever weekend of hockey. No tougher way to start than against the Charlotte Rush. But Coach Smulovich, I talked to him after the weekend. One of the biggest things I stressed to him, he asked how the boys looked. I said, you guys look great. The systems were there. This is a team that's going to be difficult to deal with. It just looked like that little last bit of gas wasn't there in the third period. And that comes from kind of a bunch of guys who have moved up the ranks in the USPHL from elite to premier this year. Their first look at the premier was the Charlotte Rush. 60 minutes is a whole lot of hockey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing here, right? Is that, he's put together really an incredible team that's a lot of young guys, some elite guys, and you just have it's just a game speed issue, right? That game is a little bit faster at the premier level, and I think it showed, as you said, showed the wear and tear into that third period, got a little penalty heavy, started missing some cues that they were able to hit in the first 2 periods of play. I think the outlook is bright for the Columbia Infantry right now, and how about going up against the Charlotte Rush in your first couple of games? Not just of the season, but as an organization. And that's on purpose, right? I mean, Coach Smulovich said he wants to play the Rush week 1. He wants to play the best teams right away. He wants to see what his team can do. And there's no better way to evaluate your team than to throw them against some of the best in the league.
Well, it's the best. The thing I love the most about the USPHL scheduling format and playoff format is with the size of it all, with this playoff format, you are incentivized to play the hardest schedule possible during the regular season, right? There's very little teams are eliminated before playoff time. So why that happens is because the USPHL wants to see the best play the best. They want to see the medium play the high and grow to that high range, right? It's all about player development. Player development comes when you're playing the best teams out there. That's what I love to see. It's all boats floating to the same level by the end of the season in this development process. And it's fun for me to watch. Really fun for me to watch this weekend, Lucas. The Richmond Generals and the Charlotte Rush. But I got to stick with the Richmond Generals right now. We've talked about the Rush a little in the Open, talked about them against Columbia. How about the Richmond Generals? This team might be one of the most difficult on the planet to play against.
They might be. I mean, they're good every year. They're committed to winning every year. But, coming off, at least the elite side coming off a championship last year, I think at both levels they look incredibly scary so far. You're 2 games in, right? Limited sample size. But again, you have to watch the games. We watched the games, and what we saw was a really well-balanced, difficult team that, I don't know, Dan, just seems to get tougher every year.
Yeah, and you look at it right now, you talk about using that ladder development model, elite to premier. This feels like an organization that won an elite national title last year and are on pace to kind of move that right up the ranks to the next level, win a premier one. Look at Andrew Farley, a couple great shifts from him over the weekend, had a chance to watch him play. This is a team that you just see that the future is bright this season. And as tough as that Southeast Division is, they're going to be potentially the most difficult team to deal with nationwide. I've been saying it all offseason. It's what I've been hearing. I always tell folks this. You know who's doing well in the recruiting circles when coaches are calling me saying, oh, I'm angry about this guy or that guy. It usually means they're getting the guys that are on everyone's list, right? So the angrier people are at you in the offseason, the better off you are. And Richmond weren't making any friends. They were putting together a world-beating roster.
Yeah, I mean, it's cutthroat recruitment season, right? We just have to kind of own up to that fact. We can talk in niceties about recruitment and the silly season, and or we can talk about what it's really like. And it's extremely cutthroat. It's extremely difficult. Guys are out there trying to make the best case for their organization, however they can. And it helps when you have a team who is consistently good year in and year out. You tend to win sometimes those recruitment battles. Sometimes you even end up with a few too many players on your team, and you got to start making some choices. So, but I think no one's a stranger to how cutthroat that process is, right? This is not new information to anybody.
Yeah, and we'll see how it looks. Austin Sawyer, Jack McCandless. How about that? This is a guy into the wild, Christopher McCandless, right? Jack McCandless, this is a guy who's going to be wild to try to stop on the ice. A left winger, 2 goals, 2 assists in his first weekend. Joe Petit's back in, 1 goal, 3 assists. Andrew Farley, you look at Honstoff there, Jacob Hall, they're going to be difficult. Matthew Hamacher, it just doesn't end. On the Charlotte Rush side, you had Hunter Berry, Shane Adler. That's like Johnny Damon territory here. Going from the Hampton Roads Whalers over to the Charlotte Rush, to the enemy there. He puts up 5 points in his opening weekend. A lot of fun hockey. Don't sleep on Potomac. Don't sleep on Columbia. Don't sleep on Hampton Roads. First chirp of the season. I can't do a bird noise. Caw, I guess. First chirp of the season comes from Brad Jones. Called me out. Didn't pick Hampton Roads on day 1 in the premiere. The Carolina Junior Canes dropped 1 to Hampton Roads. They came back and won the next day. They split the weekend. Brad Jones chirped me. How can you not pick against this? He said, that's supposed to be Lucas who picks against this. I said, you can't buy these picks, Brad. I'm going to pick who I'm going to pick.
Yeah, that's the picks are always interesting. It's a no-win situation for us because, every coach has our phone number. So as soon as it goes out live, the phone call tends to come in. But that's great. I love that. Again, it's part of the job. It's a great job to have. I know Dan will as well. I speak for both of us. We love making picks. We love getting in there, especially once the season gets going and we start having some data points to really back up what we're saying. Instead of us just spouting off hot air, we actually have numbers and math that can back us up. Those are great. I look forward to making them all season long. I'm gonna have to make some for this upcoming year to post on Twitter, Dan.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. Talk about posting to social media. We might have saw the save of the year already on day 1 during our TikTok Live. We're going to talk TikTok Live next. And did Nicholas Anderson, Mr. Nick Anderson, come up in the nick of time to make the save of a lifetime on that TikTok Live? TikTok Live coming up next.
The Dan K Show would like to thank all of our fantastic sponsors for the work that they do. If you're interested in partnering with the Dan K Show, reach out to @the_Dan K Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you too can work with the most watched show in junior hockey.
Lucas, we launched TikTok Live this past weekend, and oh boy, was it successful. Over 1,250 unique viewers throughout the length of that broadcast. 2.5 hours of hockey fun. I played Fall Guys. I lost Fall Guys. But I will tell you, Lucas, since then, 4 dubs to my record on the game of Fall Guys. So I am on a winning streak. We'll bring back Fall Guys intermission reports during this one. But at USPHL, what did the folks miss out on if they didn't tune into our first TikTok Live?
Well, I mean, besides my introduction to Fall Guys, and by the way, Dan, I will be joining you on your Fall Guys live streams on Friday night. I downloaded it. I've yet to play it. Get a little distracted with a different video game this morning, my 5 a.m. video game sessions, because that's the only time I've got. But I will be getting ready for it. I'm excited about it. What did they miss? Well, they missed our version of the Manning Cast, right? You had the Manning Cast on last night. It was the only way that game was bearable to watch. And now we get a chance to pick some really great games across USPHL Nation and add our flair to it. You missed me getting caught in Zoom prison. I'm still locked in Zoom jail until we can get the Dan K Show account up and into live territory.
You need 1,000 followers, folks. You got to go follow at the Dan K Show right now on TikTok.
Yeah, we need 1,000 followers to get Lucas out of Zoom jail. It's small in there. The audio is not great. But it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Once we settled in, I mean, you know, when you watch hockey TV with your family, right? You're watching either your children or, you know, a nephew, some relative play, and you're sitting around. That's what this is, right? If you've seen a Manning Cast, you know what it is. It's a cool vibe. It's a chill vibe. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to this one this weekend. And of course, you get the insights that we can bring, you know, to hockey TV broadcasts, to the game of hockey. That little bit of insider info to spice up a broadcast.
Yeah, and if you missed our first broadcast, you can certainly catch this next one. The Idaho Falls Spud Kings in their first ever game against the Northern Colorado Eagles at Greeley Ice House, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. That's 10:30 p.m. our time, Lucas. You got to fly to Florida the next day. That's a late one. Lucas might jump off at some point. It might be a Dan K only broadcast for a bit. But I promise that we will keep it exciting, we will keep it informative, we will keep it fun for all of you watching on TikTok Live. That's going to be a good game. I'm excited to see how loco noco is this year, how ready they are for Northern Colorado Eagle hockey. Idaho Falls Spud Kings, always fun to see a team's first game. The toughest game to play is the first one ever. Talk about Charlotte being a tough first opponent. Northern Colorado is no fun first-round opponent either. Idaho Falls going to have their hands full there. Tune in, watch along. This past weekend, we had the Save of the Year with Nick Anderson. You can head to the Dan K Show TikTok now, at the Dan K Show. Give us a follow and watch that video there. A lot of fun to be had. Lucas, on top of that game that we'll be watching Friday night, give me 2 other storylines, games, whatever, that you're interested in seeing this weekend across USPHL Nation.
Well, to build off of what our TikTok Live is going to be with the Idaho Falls Spud Kings, I'm excited to see a bunch of new teams kick things off this weekend. I think for me, that's been some of the excitement, right? We're going to have new teams new to the league, teams new in general. You've got Bakersfield Roughnecks playing Long Beach Shredders. That's tonight. That's Thursday night tonight, 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 o'clock Eastern. Then you're going to have a Friday night game between those two, the Idaho Falls. Bellingham Blazers versus Seattle Totems is happening. 2 more games for the Columbia Infantry. I mean, the Nashville Spartans kicking things off as well. Motor City Gamblers. This is a good weekend to kind of see and establish yourself as a new team in the USPHL.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one for new teams, Lucas. And for me, it's also a fun one for some teams that we've seen before, right? Like I'm looking at Columbus Mavericks, Buffalo Stampede, Friday night, 8:50 Eastern time. Talk about these late night starts that we've got going on. But Columbus and Buffalo, man, I'll give you 500 reasons why this game's a great one to watch. These are 2 teams that are on the rise right now, rebranding, beautiful looks. I mean, I think Columbus is a sneaky dark horse in that Great Lakes division to make a Nationals run.
Yeah, this is going to be a great meeting between these two. Columbus, they tend to build towards the end of the season, right around December, January. Columbus just gets better every year. So this year I'm excited because based off their social media and based off some conversations with some folks around the league, they've been hitting the recruiting trail hard. They've been putting together a heck of a team. They're doing a great job. If they can start this season at a really good pace and then get better as they tend to do, they are going to be potentially, like you say, a dark horse candidate for a good Nationals run.
I like it, Lucas. I think you had one more game you wanted to look at this weekend. We were talking about it off air. What's the matchup?
It's the Richmond Generals versus the Hampton Roads Whalers. I need to get a feel for this Southeast Division. I think one of my way too early predictions this year was that it's not that the Southeast is getting worse, it's that everyone's getting better, and that the grip that the Southeast has on the USPHL Premier is lessening. And I feel like I might have accidentally riled some folks up with that because I certainly heard it. And so I'm going to be tuning into some Southeast hockey here. If the Richmond Generals are as good as they seem, we'll see. I've also heard some stuff about Hampton Roads Whalers. I want to watch them play. I didn't get a chance to catch them this weekend. So it'll be a good barometer for how that Southeast Division is going to go.
Yeah, and I've said it a bunch this offseason. I said it now. I think Richmond right now is, if you made me power rank teams before we've seen everybody play, Richmond would have been my number one before anybody took the ice. They stood up to that last weekend against Potomac, a team that I think is better than what the scorecard showed for you after that weekend. I think Hampton Roads is going to give them all they can handle, but that is a tough place to play at Skate Nation Plus. The fans are going to be buzzing. Jens Nation is going to be rolling. I guarantee you that Coach R.C. Like he might not tell you this to your face, but behind the scenes right now, he's thinking double dip. He wants to answer back. Every one of these teams in this division, whether it be Hampton Roads, I always talk to them. We're friends with all these guys individually, whether it's Street Jocks and the Carolina Junior Canes, whether it's RC like and the Gens, whether it's Brad Jones and his crew there with the Hampton Roads Whalers, Ryan Crothers and Klex and Schwabi and Jewel and Sylvester and the Charlotte Rush, whether it be RJ Ziegler and Gratz with the Potomac Patriots. I mean, and whether it be the new crew out there in Nashville, we're buddies with all of them. But my Lanta, do they hate each other? There is just there, and it's not hate off. It's just
an intense dislike.
There's just such vitriol in it all because there's so much competition, and every year it's somebody else's turn to raise the banner and win the division. This feels like it might be Richmond's year in the Premier. So much hockey to be played, so much talent in the Southeast. I'm excited to see it all. My second matchup, I'm really pumped about. I mean, I'm really excited about Cincinnati and Toledo just to see those two teams kick off the season. But there's a friend of the show in Jim Raymond who's taking the helm at the Premier level for the first time. Jersey Hitmen, Pal Junior Islanders. I'm interested to see what Ice Vault Rink 2 has in store for us 7 p.m. Eastern Saturday night between Pal and the Hitmen.
Yeah, that is, I think that one is definitely going to hold some significance because, as you said, Jim Raymond taking over and now Premier and Elite, as well as acting as the GM for those teams. He is building that Premier and Elite program in Wayne, New Jersey. So it's not a new organization, but certainly a different direction than we've seen the last couple of years in New Jersey. So it's exciting. It's stressful. It's got to be stressful, especially for a lot of these coaches because, I mean, they care so much. Jim Raymond included in that category, right? They want to do well for the players. They want to do well for themselves. And as much as they don't want to tell you, there's that little bit of ego. They want to win some hockey games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they do. And Lucas, I am excited for it all. Hockey is back. Let's go. A couple weeks away from everybody being kicked off. But as long as we got some hockey going on right now, I'm happy. We're a week away from our first ever, not the first ever time we've gone on the road, Lucas. Our first trip of the year. Lucas is hopping on a plane Saturday afternoon down to Florida. We're going to be up to Chesapeake, Virginia, out to Worcester, Ohio, moving along to Pueblo, Colorado. A lot of hockey to be covered. Lucas, we're skipping the empty net still. We're not at that point in the year yet. Empty net starts next week. Once everyone's playing, we get to the empty net. Parting words. I like that. I think he. Whoa! Look at he's coming to Florida. I didn't know your plane landed. I gotta go pick him up. I gotta run to the airport. I'll see you guys later. When Dan K's on the mic, it's always hockey night. Thank you to Body Trick. Thank you to GMU Sport. Go to gmusport.com today. USPHL 22 at checkout for 22% off. I'll tell you what. I just had a hot chocolate with their protein peanut butter cup powder. Absolutely delicious. protein powder, everything you need for your workout, creatine, pre-workout, your post-drink right there, that souped-up Pedialyte, that Powerade Supreme. You can get it all at gmusport.com today. Go to gmusport.com, USPHL 22 at checkout for 22% off. Remastered Sleep. It's the water bottle of your dreams, and they are our best friends. Best friends. They don't get us saying it. They're our best friends. Remastered Sleep. We Ren Boys. Go to remasteredsleep.com today and stop that snoring. They just sold out their entire inventory because they were on the news. These guys are hitting it big, and we are happy to be on their coattails riding along like a squirrel on a jet ski. That's it. When Dan K's on the mic, it's always hockey night. Go to dankshow.com today to find out more about the Dan K Show Cup Series. A new link near you.